Joining me now in the Sydney studio is Andy Carroll from Mosman Oil and Gas. Andy, terrific to see you again and great timing. We'd love to talk to you about the updated production figures for the last half of last year. Tell us about these.
Thanks, Danielle. Good to be here. Good to take the opportunity to talk to our shareholders and interested parties. So we are very pleased with the production increase last year that was announced a couple of days ago. And importantly, the Stanley 2 well that we're very keen to see drilled. The rig has been ready and we're just waiting for that road to dry out, which should happen any day now, so we can get that well drilled, which we had anticipated would be on production by now. But we look forward to that well coming on. And the one significant well that was added in that period last year was Stanley 1. That continues to produce predominantly gas with some oil, and we're looking at what can be done on that well, either to increase oil production from the existing zone or to recomplete that well and produce from one of the multiple oil zones that were identified in the drilling of Stanley 1, which was part of the tremendous success that Stanley 1 was drilling up multiple stack pay zones.
And in the meantime, while you have been a little bit held up on the ground, you have increased your production lease in Texas. So that is some good news. Tell us about that.
Yeah, indeed, and this is really good. This is one of the jewels in the crown of the joint venture with Baja. So Baja have done a great job in identifying opportunities based on acquiring 3D seismic and using technology to identify oil in the ground that has not yet been produced. So we're very happy with our initial stake of 16% in that project, and the follow-up technical work firmed up Baja's initial conclusions, and so we're very pleased to move to a higher working interest level. Also to take over operatorship of that project. One of the frustrations at Stanley is that we don't operate that project. So at Challenger, we will be the operator. We decide which wells are drilled when, together with Baja as a joint venture partner. And there are multiple development well sites that have been identified on that project that we can now move ahead to start planning drilling those wells later this year.
Yes, so looking ahead then, let's break it down to the US and Australia's Northern Territory. Starting in the US, of course, Stanley 2 is what everyone's eyes are on. Give us a more broader outlook for 2019 with your assets there.
Yeah, so Stanley 2 is targeting the Yawa sands, which are highly productive sands that were identified in the drilling of Stanley 1. Stanley 1, we will look at what steps are needed to increase production on that well. We have elsewhere in the portfolio the Champion project, where Mosman has a 60% interest in a large prospect called Falcon and another one called Galaxy. And so we're progressing, planning to drill a well in that lease probably around the middle of the year. And with the acquisition at Challenger and the operatorship, we can get on with planning wells on that location. So very positive steps forward. At Welch, we have the horizontal wells that a tremendous upside on Welch. So we continue to work the right way to fund those wells. They're a significant investment that we were looking to find a third party to fund those wells. We've been in conversations, but we don't have a definite answer at this stage, but we look forward to that project progressing in due course. The other projects, Arcoma is the wells have had some workovers and zone recompletions, so we're just monitoring to see how those wells settle down over time, and they seem to be going quite well. And at Strawn, that was our entry project, which is modest in the big picture, but continues to produce nicely. So in the US, we set up last year with a very strong portfolio of projects, and this year we look forward to drilling more wells with the anticipated increased production as a result of that.
Well, that sounds like a lot happening in the US. Of course, you're also interested in assets here in Australia's Northern Territory. Mm-hmm. What's the outlook there?
So the Northern Territory provides a very significant upside potential for Mosman. So we've focused our exploration portfolio on this area. It didn't get a lot of publicity, but the pipeline between the Northern Territory and the Eastern States gas market was completed and is now flowing gas from around Christmas last year. So that's a significant step in infrastructure that will drive additional activity in the Northern Territory, which is positive for our lease in the Northern Territory. Importantly, Santos are drilling a key well just to the south of our permit, a prospect called Ducas, and it is a very large prospect, and it proves up, it will test a concept of hydrocarbons, but also importantly helium below the salt layer. So that really opens up significant upside potential, and we are looking at the right work program, and that is triggering significant interest in the Amadeus Basin, which will help us organise appropriate funding for the ongoing program. So there is our technical work, but the first big news will be watching the Ducas well, which is only a matter of weeks away in terms of starting that well.
A bit of a side note there, Andy, but would you tell us a little bit more about the helium potential, given that it is sort of running a bit low in terms of global supply?
Indeed, Danielle. There is growing interest in helium. Just as you get gold bugs, there are now sort of helium bugs who are spotting, as you say, the shortage of helium. And it's not something that gets talked about very much. It's a key use is in MRI and medical equipment. It's something that's on the US sort of strategic list of commodities, and the world is running out of helium. So there are a number of projects being chased in Africa where there's a trace of helium. Here in the Northern Territory, from 2 wells that have been drilled already, we know that the gas in the Amadeus Basin contains not only hydrocarbons, but also significant quantity of helium. So Santos and Central Petroleum have put out some reports on the potential of Ducas. They're talking about 2 trillion cubic feet of hydrocarbons. They're also talking about 400 BCF of helium, which is a world-scale helium resource. We're talking 3 to 5% of the gas in place. So that will be a game changer and something that anybody interested in helium should be monitoring very closely.
Plenty to watch out for then. Andy Carroll, thank you.
Thank you very much.